I welcome you, my dear students, to my channel. In this video, I am going to discuss Thomas Babington Macaulay's Merits on Education, which is prescribed for BA 6th semester optional English students. Before going to the discussion of Merits on Education, we shall understand something about Thomas Babington Macaulay. He was born in the year 1800 and died in 1859. Macaulay was a British poet, essayist, historiographer, and a politician. He played a significant role in shaping British policies in India, and he is best known for his contribution to English literature and historiography. He was called to bar in 1826 but soon shifted to writing and politics. He served as member of parliament for several constituencies in Britain. He was a prominent Whig politician and he advocated for social and political reforms, including the expansion of voting rights and the abolition of slavery. In 1834, Macaulay was appointed to the Supreme Council of India, where he played a key role in shaping British colonial policies. He is best known for his Minutes on Indian Education, the present discussion that we are continuing, which advocated for the promotion of English education in India. This policy had a lasting impact on Indian society and education system. He also contributed to the drafting of the Indian Penal Code, which became the foundation of criminal law in India. Macaulay was a prolific reader and he is best remembered for his History of England. It's a five-volume work that became a classic in English historiography. It covered the period from the accession of James II to the Glorious Revolution. His essays collected in the Critical and Historical Essays were widely read and admired for their clarity and for their persuasive style. He also wrote poetry, including the popular Lays of Ancient Rome, which celebrated Roman history and heroism. Now let's begin our discussion on his Minutes on Education, which came into force in 1835. It is one of the most significant documents in the history of Indian education and British colonial policy. It laid the foundation for the introduction of English education in India, and it had a far-reaching consequences for Indian society, culture, administration. Macaulay arrived in India in 1834 as a member of the Supreme Council of India. At that time, there was a debate among the British officials about the medium of education in India. The Orientalists advocated for the promotion of traditional Indian learning. Traditional Indian learning means Sanskrit, Arabic, and Persian languages, while the Anglicists argued for the introduction of Western education in India. The debate was related with which medium of language should be implemented in India. There were two groups. The one is the Orientalists, the Easterners. They argued for the traditional Indian learning, means Sanskrit and Arabic and Persian languages. And there was another group which is called Anglicists, and they argued for the introduction of Western education in English. So Macaulay was appointed to resolve this debate and decide how British funds for education should be spent. There was 1 lakh rupees given by the British government to spend on education, and there was a debate, how should we spend this 1 lakh rupees. So to resolve this debate, Macaulay was appointed, and for that reason he wrote this Minute on Education. Then in that Minutes on Education, Macaulay argues for the superiority of Western knowledge. That means Macaulay argued that Western knowledge, particularly in the sciences and literature and philosophy, was far superior to Indian knowledge system. Indian knowledge system is inferior and the Western knowledge system is superior. That was the concept of T.B. Macaulay. He famously dismissed traditional Indian learning, stating, I quote, "A single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. I unquote. What does he say? He says a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. Macaulay advocated for English to be the medium of instruction in Indian schools and colleges. He believed that English was the key to modern knowledge and it should help Indians to access the best ideas and advancements from the West. His goal was to create a class of Indians who were, quote, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. This class would serve as the intermediaries between the British rulers and the Indian population, helping to consolidate British control. He argued that English education would provide practical benefits to Indians, enabling them to participate in colonial administration and economy. His argument was that English education would provide practical benefits to Indians and that will enable them to participate in colonial administration and economy. And he also argues that it would also modernize Indian society, civilize Indian society, and it align them with British values and systems because he thinks that British values and systems are superior. So he wanted Indian people to align Indian people to be equal to the British people. So to make them civilized and to make them, to modernize them, English is essential. And so he argues English education should be implemented in India so that British superiority can be understood in his writing and in his argument. Macaulay criticized the Orientalist focus on Sanskrit, Arabic and Persian, calling these languages outdated and irrelevant to modern needs. These Indian languages, Sanskrit, Persian and Arabic languages are outdated language according to Macaulay, and he also calls them irrelevant to modern needs. He believed that funds should not be wasted on promoting traditional Indian education. So funds should be spent on introducing English and Western education. Then what are the outcomes of this Macaulay's minutes? Macaulay recommendations were accepted by Lord William Bentinck, the Governor General of India, and the English Education Act of 1935 was passed. English became the official medium of instruction in higher education and the funds were redirected from traditional Indian learning to the promotion of Western education. Institutions like Calcutta Medical College and Elphinstone colleges were established to impart Western education. Then what are the outcomes? What are the impacts of these minutes on education? There are some positive effects. For example, English education created a class of educated Indians who played a key role in the Indian Renaissance and the eventual independence movement. So English, which was introduced to subjugate Indian people, actually it became a kind of a tool for the independence. It played a key role in the Indian Renaissance and it also became a reason for the Indian independence movement indirectly. It facilitated the spread of modern ideas such as liberalism, democracy, scientific thinking in India. There were some Western ideas. So Indian people got these new ideas on liberalism, democracy and scientific thinking. So these are some positive effects. And also English became a unifying language in a linguistic diverse country. India is a linguistically diverse country. There are many languages. So English became a language for the unification that unified Indian people. A single language became a mode of communication. Thus it became the reason for the unification of India. These are some positive effects, and there are some negative effects which are very much criticized in post-colonial theories. Traditional Indian knowledge systems and languages were marginalized. Traditional Indian knowledge system and language, our system, education system, knowledge system and language system, that was marginalized, that became secondary. And it led to the decline in the study and preservation of these languages, though these languages started to decline. or they got less importance in the present time. The focus on English created a divide between the English educated elite and the masses. So class division started because of this introduction of English. Elite English class and the less educated mass who remained disconnected from the new education system. Educated, not educated. Educated, new educated. There was a class distinction in India, and critics argue that Macaulay's policy was designed to serve colonial interest by creating class of Indians loyal to British rule. So there was a class of there was a class of Indian who were very much loyal to the British rule. So Macaulay's Minutes remains a controversial document till today. While it is credited with modernizing Indian education, it's also criticized for its cultural imperialism and the erosion of indigenous knowledge systems. The English education system introduced by Macaulay continues to shape India's education landscape, with English remaining a dominant language in higher education and administration. In post-colonial study, we study this minutes on education to understand how colonial rules existed in India, how colonialism started in India, and its impacts on Indian people today. So, hope you understood this essay. For more clarification, you need to read the original writing of Thomas Babington Macaulay's Minutes on Education, Indian Education. Thank you for listening.